Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to today's roundup of some of the latest news and gossip from, you guessed it, the world of Formula One. Now, I've got 6 stories for you today, starting with something that probably falls under the category of gossip, with Jacques Villeneuve saying that he believes the crash between Valtteri Bottas and George Russell during the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix on Sunday is down to the fin. In fact, the Canadian didn't stop there and said that he reckons Bottas is, quote, simply too slow, and feels that in a tight championship fight that could damage Lewis Hamilton's prospects of an 8th world title. Speaking with F1 Insider, the 1997 world champion said, Perez is the newcomer to Red Bull and is already stronger than Bottas, who is in his 5th season with Mercedes. Perez can help Max more than Bottas can do for Hamilton. What do you think about that one? And discussing the crash itself, the Canadian was clear who he felt was to blame, adding, I don't understand Toto Wolff. Why does he blame the Brit in the collision? Bottas knew that his potential successor was about to overtake him and risked a serious accident with his slight move to the right. He mustn't do that under these difficult track conditions. This shows how tense Bottas is already in the second race of the season, and that is not going to get any better because he is simply too slow. If he wasn't, he would not have had to defend his position so hard against a Williams. As covered on Wednesday, Russell has already issued an apology to Bottas for his reaction to the incident and says he has learned some tough lessons. It is also worth noting that Villeneuve believes the increased competition from Red Bull this year is resulting in Max Verstappen forcing Lewis Hamilton to take big risks already. The Canadian, rather interestingly as well, said the battle between the two of them reminds him of his fight with Michael Schumacher, saying the German, quote, couldn't cope with him. Interesting stuff. As ever then, Villeneuve is pulling no punches, and it's interesting that he feels Bottas is to blame for Sunday's crash, but I have to say, it is now nearly a week since the incident happened, so I reckon it's time to put this one to bed and hope, for Bottas' sake, that's the only time he has to worry about racing a Williams in 2021. Next up, Nikita Mazepin says he is surprised by the standard of behaviour he has witnessed in the first 2 races of the new season. During qualifying at Imola, Mazepin was seen overtaking Antonio Giovinazzi on the driver's final flying laps, which left the Italian massively upset as he felt the Haas driver had broken a gentleman's agreement about passing other cars at the start of their qualifying laps. That came after Mazepin jumped the queue late on in Bahrain, which annoyed many of his rivals at the time, and it's these reactions that appear to have surprised him as he defended the moves in an interview with Russian outlet Match. Each of us has a team, the instructions of which we follow. In both cases, I followed the instructions, but there are some unspoken rules. Yes, I am still learning, but in the end, I crossed the finish line 2 seconds before the end of the qualifying segment. If I had stayed behind him, I would not have had time for another lap. It is unpleasant for me that it happened, but here it is every man for himself. Mazepin, I think it's fair to say, has had a very difficult start to life in F1, having had numerous spins across both weekends so far, and only managed to make it to turn 3 in Bahrain. However, he did make it to the end of the race at a rain-affected Grand Prix at Imola, so as I said on Sunday, as much as people laugh about it, it is still a step forward. He was also asked about how things were going within the team, with Mazepin describing his relationship with Gunther Steiner as excellent, and also feels he has a good working relationship with teammate Mick Schumacher, and when it comes to teamwork, he reckons he is learning a lot. Moving on, Williams CEO Jos Capito says that whilst he expects the team to make a step forward in 2022 when the new regulations are introduced, he believes the idea of the team challenging for the title is unrealistic. As I'm sure you all know by now, next season sees F1 enter a new era with the biggest set of regulation changes in years, and that has led to a lot of people wondering if we could see some of the teams towards the back of the field make the leap up the grid in a similar way others have in the past. So for example, in more recent times, I say more recent times, we're talking about 2009, which feels like about yesterday, but actually it's quite a while ago. Anyway, Braun and Red Bull in 2009 made some big steps forward, and Mercedes in 2014 went on to dominate the sport. And it was at the start of the turbo hybrid era where Williams was able to make a big step forward, finishing 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, a vast improvement on their 9th place finish in 2013. And on the subject of 2022 and any potential title tilt, Capito told the Beyond the Grid podcast, we are expecting and working towards making a significant step. Of course, the new regulations give us a chance, but the new owners came in towards the end of last year, and there is a lot of investment needed. You have to make this investment work to make it all work. To make the 2022 car, it's already quite late to come in and have it all on the car because you have to make it work. So, to be realistic, we want to make a significant step, but it would be completely unrealistic to believe we will have a car that can win the championship next year. And it is this story that is, I suppose, the inspiration behind today's question or questions. Which team do you think will make the biggest leap up the grid in 2022? Yes, I know it's massively speculative, but it'd be interesting to hear what you think. And is there any team that you think could be a surprise title contender next year? You can, as always, let me know your thoughts on this or any of the stories featured today in the comment section down below. Work on Red Bull's new state-of-the-art factory that will become home to the team's powertrain division has broken ground with construction now underway. With Honda leaving F1 at the end of the year, Red Bull decided to acquire the manufacturer's intellectual property of its current power unit and committed to continuing the project from next season. Of course, with the engine freeze coming into force next year, the main focus of the new division will be on the 2025 regulations. And so right now, Christian Horner says it's all about building up the infrastructure in time for that. And with work now underway, the team is focused on bringing in the, quote, best talent possible, but will also keep hold of some of Honda's current staff to help in its takeover of the project. Horner did also add that the decision to build the new facility at the current Milton Keynes campus was to, quote, make sure that there is this seamless integration between power unit and chassis. So it seems as though there's some exciting times ahead for Red Bull, and the team has also confirmed that Ben Hodgkinson will fill the role of technical director at Red Bull Powertrains. Now, Hodgkinson will join the team after completing his current contract as head of engineering at Mercedes-Benz High Performance Powertrains. That is the official line from Red Bull. There is a little bit of a conflict with this one though, at least in terms of the time frame of him moving to Red Bull anyway, with some reports claiming that Hodgkinson is now on gardening leave and will not be able to take on the role of technical director until the end of 2022. That, by the way, is according to reports in Germany by AMUS. McLaren CEO Zak Brown would like to see Formula One arrange a third race in the United States, earmarking Indianapolis as a possible destination. Last weekend, a second race in the US was confirmed with the addition of the Miami Grand Prix to the 2022 calendar, and whilst F1 boss Stefano Domenicali says there are currently no immediate plans to add more, Brown says he has already spoken with Domenicali and voiced his view that Indianapolis should be on the schedule. However, it must be said Brown does acknowledge that it may not be possible to accommodate 3 races per season in the US, and so has instead suggested that perhaps the sport could have one permanent venue, in his opinion that should be Miami, and then look to rotate each year between the Circuit of the Americas and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Brown also believes the current circuit at Indy is far better managed under Roger Penske, and that he could engineer the return of the track to Formula One. And whilst we are on the subject of racing in the US, earlier this week, Formula One released a virtual lap of the new circuit that will be used in Miami next year. It has received a mixed reaction, I think I'm going to put it that way. It does have a real air of Vietnam about it. Obviously, I can't show you it in this video for FOM-related reasons. But if you would like to check it out, you can find a link to it in the description down below, as well as a link to all of the sources used for today's roundup. And finally for today, Daniel Ricciardo believes he did not underestimate the time he would need to adjust to a new team in 2021 and is focused on staying calm as he tries to get up to speed. 2 races into his time at McLaren, Ricciardo has appeared to struggle to match the pace of teammate Lando Norris, finishing half a minute behind the Brit who finished on the podium at Imola and being well off come the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix as well, although it must be said the Aussie's pace at Sakir was affected by damage to the floor of his car after Gasly hit the back of him. And when asked if he thinks he had underestimated how long it would take to find his feet at McLaren, Ricciardo told Sky Sports F1 that that was not the case, and he was aware it could take a while as he had learned from his past experience of trying to transition between Red Bull and Renault. Ricciardo ended his interview by saying, quote, "Panic not, I'll just work at it." That's a very good attitude to have. His boss, Andreas Seidel, added to this later on, saying that he personally wasn't at all surprised drivers at new teams were taking a while to get up to speed, given the lack of pre-season running they'd had, of course, only 3 days of testing this year. However, he fully expects, given Ricciardo's experience, that it is only a matter of time before he will feel more comfortable in the car. That is it then for today's roundup, but you can, as always, let me know your thoughts on any of the stories featured in today's video in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back next week with some build-up to the Portuguese Grand Prix. Very excited for F1 being back in Portimao. And don't forget, actually, that is the first race of the first back-to-back run of the season with the Spanish Grand Prix just a week later. They are going to start coming thick and fast now, and as you might expect, I can't wait for it. Anyway, in the meantime, if you did enjoy this video, then please do leave a like, as it really helps to appease the YouTube algorithm gods. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.